So the last couple of weeks have been kind of chaotic, immensely so. um, I just start last Sunday. Okay, so a week and a half ago, we were over at my grandparents' house, and there's a little bit of an incident with me and my niece getting in an argument for an ongoing thing that she's been told not to do many, many, many times and continues to try to do, which is picking up the dogs. Issue because she's 8 and they get heavy real fast, but she wants to prove that she can do it. But she picked up the 13-year-old Sheltie, the Friday before, and the one who's in front of me currently. I've been defluffing her. She picked her up and carried her into the garage after school, and as soon as she got in the house, she dropped her. And she's 13 and like 30 pounds, which also overweight. So I was in my office and heard the dog screech from way back there, which is like opposite ends of the house. But then she was lifting up the puppy, and so it's an ongoing thing. And yeah, so there was an issue with that. Somebody else tried to get involved. I lost my temper a little bit, said some things, called somebody a fucking dumbass. Yeah, I'm not going to go into those details, though I did, there was a moment of feeling like maybe that was a little bit of excessive, but then as I spent some time with it, I realized where it was coming from, which goes way back into the traumatic time frame of my younger years. Anyway, so that was just a whole thing, and then I spent a few days just randomly trying to deal with the emotional weight of the stuff that had come up again. Yeah. So then, I think it was Monday, I got a phone call. Well, no, that one, I got a text message. My mom got the phone call and sent out a text message to a bunch of the family asking if anybody was available to go over to my grandparents' house because my grandma fell. So that was Monday. So my aunt and I end up over there, the middle sister. We get over there and she's in the garage and I'm in the house, and it's a little bit of a step. My grandma's sitting on the step, and I didn't go at it from a good angle and ended up kind of hurting my shoulder a little bit when we lifted her back up, which was more just annoying than anything. She was not seriously injured, thankfully. However, see, that was Monday. I don't remember what happened Tuesday. I think there was probably something that happened Tuesday. But at this point, everything runs together. So Wednesday, I think I had just gotten in from walking my dogs, and my mom was making hamburgers, and I said, "Ooh, do we have a tomato?" We did not have a tomato, so I ran next door to my grandma's house to get a tomato. And the younger sister, or the younger two sisters were there, the middle sister and the youngest. The youngest was leaving as I walked over, and I wasn't there for long. Went out in the garage, got the tomato, and then came back home. My aunt, the middle sister, and her husband left my grandparents' house at the same time I did. And I had time to come home, cut the tomato, eat my cheeseburger, and my mom she didn't even have a chance to finish hers, and her phone rings. It's like, and she's kind of one of those, just, crap, what now, kind of a thing. especially when she sees that it is my grandparents' home number. So she shows me and kind of, here we go, and answers the phone, and real short conversation. The extent of what my grandma said was, Dad's down and he got hurt and we need help or something. And so I clear up the table and everything as much as I possibly can to keep the dogs out of everything, as my parents are getting loaded into the car, and we all go over there, and we get there, and my grandfather's laying on the dining room floor, and he's on his side, and he's got blood running down his face, and he was griping because he tripped over some stuff that he's been complaining about being there for a long time, and nobody moved it. Never mind the part where he was not using his cane, which he's supposed to be doing at all times, but doesn't want to when he's in the house. I think he tripped over the cane that was next to the stuff he was complaining about, because the cane was also leaning over the chairs that were a complaint in this particular scenario. But he said he was gathering up the trash and he tripped and hit his knee and his face on the two chairs that were sitting right there. They're just like the fold up chairs that you get out for like guests coming over or something, whatever. Anyway, he tripped over those because they just kind of stay out, and then when there's not enough chairs for the people who are in the house, they just move one of those over to the table or whatever. No big deal. However, he tripped, he hit his knee on one, then he hit his face, and then he landed on his side, and he had like blood running from his nose as he's laying there. So we get over there and we come into this, figure out what's going on, and my mom immediately says, call Beth. It's like, okay, call Beth, tell her what's going on. She's the one that lives next door, and the middle sister. So she and her husband come over, and then I call the youngest sister, who doesn't answer, and so I call her again real quick, and she still doesn't answer. So knowing she sometimes puts her phone down and walks away from it and doesn't think anything about it, it happens, whatever. So I called her husband and told him what was going on. Luckily, he's pretty good about having his phone around. So he got the message and went and told her that he was down and, they needed to go over there. I looked at my mom and was like, are you ready for me to call the ambulance? Because he's not getting up without an ambulance. And she's like, hold off until Carol and Brian get here. It's like, okay. And they were talking to him. But at this point, Beth and her husband were over there. So they were also kind of talking, trying to get the information, what's going on. Okay, so my mom and her sisters all worked in the medical field at some point. My mom worked at the heart hospital. I forget what she did. I don't know if she was like a PA or something. I don't remember. Because she didn't do it for very long. She, I've said before that she has mentioned, I heard all my life that one of her biggest regrets was not going to college, and then she went to college after I got married and moved away. So I wasn't around for most of the schooling time. I did get to go to her graduation, and then she was working there. I don't know how long that was. She ended up having a heart attack while at work, which was kind of convenient. She told somebody she wasn't feeling good, and they're like, where do you work? And they sent her to the ER. So yeah, that was the thing. Then the middle sister was a nurse until she had her health stuff that made everything go chaotic for her. Again, heart issues being the thing, but hers, she had a heart attack while on vacation, and when she got back and was following up with doctors up here, she found out that the heart attack she had was due to a birth defect where, like, I guess one of the chambers that was supposed to feed out of the heart fed back into the heart rather than where it was supposed to. And her doctor said that it's one of those things that, you hear of athletes dying on the field from because they, had a heart attack and died because they didn't know they had this birth defect, and then suddenly it was a problem. And that was her case. And then she ended up having surgery to repair that. And then, like, a week after that, they found out that the blood thinner she was on, she had some kind of reaction to it. And I think she basically ended up drowning within herself. Like, her heart cavity just kind of flooded. So, yeah, it's a big hot mess. She died for a little bit of time. I don't know how long, but she's back. But there's issues from that that still lingering, so she doesn't actively do nursing stuff anymore. But she had a long time of being a nurse before that. The youngest one is a radiologist. So they're all in medical, or have been. All have had heart attacks, actually. The youngest sister had hers the earliest. She was 34 when she had her first one. And then, I don't know how old she was for the second one. But, yeah. The first one, I'm wanting to say was, we went to a concert. I want to say John Mellencamp. And she had a heart attack the next day. And it was like one of her favorite musicians ever. And she was up dancing and having fun. And I was kind of depressed because I was getting ready to move away to college for the first time and didn't really know what was going on. Everything that way, just had a lot of stress. And then the next day, that happened. So yeah, that's the whole thing. Anyway, that's all irrelevant. The point is, my mom and her sisters worked in the medical field, and so, and I did too, because I was in mental health for a long time. But yeah, so I was told to wait on Carol to get there to, so they could think about it too, and add to the decision-making process. And I was like, I think I'm just going to call 911 at this point, because there's no way this man can get up off of the floor. He said he hit his head. And going with that, 2 weeks beforehand, 2.5 weeks beforehand, I think, we're at 3 now, he actually went to a restaurant with one of his best friends for breakfast, and on the way out, he fell and hit his head on the curb. And he was complaining about neck pain and all this stuff. His friend brought him home, and my mom and her sisters ended up over there that day, and he ended up going to the ER that day, and they found out he had like a small brain bleed. And they kept him in the hospital, I think, for a day or two just to make sure it wasn't getting any bigger. It didn't, so they said he was okay to go home, and they kept an eye on it. He goes to doctors like almost daily. So yeah, he saw a couple in that time, and of course my stomach's making noises. Sorry. Anyway, so he had the brain bleed, had whiplash, obviously. At some point when they checked, they did a CAT scan of his brain, they found it was shrinking, so it was doing what it was supposed to be doing. They're still complaining a lot about pain, but of course, I mean, whiplash lasts forever, right? Yeah, so there was ongoing issues with that. So then the fall last week, when he says he hit his head, it's like, okay, I'm just calling. So called for an ambulance, and they got there, and at this point my mom and her sisters were checking out his knee, and they're like, oh, there's definitely something wrong with his knee. Of course, the radiologist sees all sorts of weird things. She's like, there's definitely something wrong there. So Wednesday, the ambulance takes him to not the normal hospital that he goes to for his cancer treatments, which they prefer going to for anything. The EMT said they were taking him to this other one, the next closest, because they are more equipped to be able to deal with more extensive issues should there be something with the blood thinners and the fact that he has a pacemaker and all this stuff. So we end up over there, and they do an MRI of his knee, and he had shattered his femur. So that was a big hot mess, and I don't remember if there was anything further that they found at that hospital, but they saw the level or the extent of the break in his leg, and they sent him to another facility or another hospital, the one that's more suitable for trauma. So my mom and the middle sister and I went to that hospital with him. Mind you, okay, he'd fallen at like 6:30. We got to the first hospital by 7:30. We ended up going to the second hospital. I was driving at 1:11. I saw that on the clock, so I pointed it out. Yeah, so that was like in the morning, so yeah. And of course, we were told it would probably put him in a room, and then a lot of the other stuff wouldn't happen until tomorrow or the next day, because that was last week now. So yeah, so we weren't going to leave until we figured out more of what was going on, and they said they were going to do some scans, more CT scans, MRIs, whatever, all the things. So yeah, we ended up spending a lot of time waiting that night. And of course, it's like loud, and there's like all these people in the hallways, like patients and staff, and it was just, I put my head down a couple times like I was going to take a nap, and then it's like, there's no way that's possible. And he was the same way. He couldn't sleep there either, so he'd like close his eyes for a little while, and then he'd start talking. It's like, yeah, this sucks. And they wouldn't let him have water because he was supposed to have an MRI at some point. There's all these things. It was, wanting to say 4 a.m.-ish when one of the doctors came in. It was a neurosurgeon, I think, that told us on top of the shattered femur, he had a fracture in T3 of his spine. So yeah, obviously that would need to be checked out before we could do anything. And there was still other stuff they had to worry about. They wanted to see about when they could get him in for surgery. They didn't know how long that would take. They ended up moving us to another room in the ER, like actual nice rooms. I think we were in the room long enough to get the handle on the bathroom door fixed. And then they came in and said, oh, he's going for surgery. It's like, oh, okay. So like 10:30, we're like leaving that area to go for the surgery. So we end up in the surgery center, and we were there for a long time. And my mom's youngest sister and her mom came back during that wait, because they'd both gone home to get some sleep. And then I kind of half dozed in the chair. Well, they were nice cushy chairs, and they had real sturdy armrests in between them to connect them all together, right? So I have my legs jacked across the stupid armrest to kind of curl up to some degree, and that's not comfortable at all, but it was the best I could do. So I did it, and I napped for not even a half hour. And then I get woken up because my grandma's hungry and my aunt wants me to go with her to get food. It's like, okay. And I need sleep anyway, right? So I really don't count that as anything useful, because it was not worthwhile sleep. It was like I died for a few minutes and then that was it. Anyway, surgery happened. He got pins and a rod and all sorts of stuff in his knee, and then his, I don't know if they went all the way up to his hip. I don't know where it was. Anyway, he had surgery, got hardware put in, and then what happened then? I think we ended up in another, they got put into an actual room after he got through the initial time that he had to stay. God, my stomach is making so much noises today, guys. I don't know what my deal is. Anyway, we end up in a room, and he's still in that room, so we're stationary finally. Took a long time, even that day he didn't get to go for the MRI until after that surgery, and like way later. So it was like, no, this freaking MRI was the next day. By the time we went home that night, it was like 7:30. I went to bed at like 9:30 and was comatose until the next day when we went back. And we were all there all day that day too. So I was like awake for something like 39 hours. Yeah, my mom and the middle sister were too. So it wasn't just me. I'm not complaining on that end. It was just kind of a chaotic, a whole lot of chaos the past several days. The next day was Friday. I had a concert that I was supposed to go to with my brother. And I was excited for this concert, and there was no way I was going to let all this stuff, get in the way of that either. So I did go to my concert. My brother, however, canceled on me at the last minute, so that was the thing. It's like, so the 2 metal concerts that I've gone to in my life, I went to solo. And I might just make that a habit now, because I had fun by myself. And it was kind of funny, because when my mom was griping about him canceling on me, I was like, I'm still going, first off. And it's like, I'm not concerned about it at all. It's like, I like my safety. That's not an issue. I'm not concerned about that. And I was talking to her on the phone. I was like, she was all concerned about it. And I was like, seriously? I was like, the metal crowd, I think, is like the least cause for concern on safety issues. And then she's like, well, I wouldn't know. I don't spend any time with them. I don't like them or something. I was like, well, then you don't like me and your son, and that's kind of lame. She said I was a smart ass. And then when she was going off on my brother about him canceling on me at the last minute, he said basically the same thing. It's like, these aren't people you have to worry about. So that was kind of fun. Anyway, concert was actually one that I wanted to go to in 2020. I was all excited because it was Five Finger Death Punch, and they were like the big group that got me into, consistently listening to any kind of metal. We've branched since then. It's a kind of a much broader range than it used to be. But, in 2020, I was supposed to go to their concert, and I was all excited, and I was going to Cincinnati to see them. I got into their music back in 2016. I was trying to write a letter to, I don't even know who, somebody in the military that might have a say-so in in deciding whether I got to stay in and finish out my contract. And by the time I was done writing the letter, I was listening to the song Wrong Side of Heaven over and over again. And by the time I was done writing this letter, it's like I needed this experience to write and to realize how much I love writing. But I don't think I'm supposed to stay in the military after all, so I just kind of let that go. Yeah, mind you, it was the whole brain injury, so I was going out on medical, and whatever, it is what it is. I think I could have made that work out a little better had I not been married, honestly, because I was not in a good headspace, and at that point, it was just like, I didn't have the capacity to want to make the military thing work at that point. I was just like mentally exhausted and kind of done with most things. So I let that go. But anyway, 2020, I was listening to their music all the time when I was working at this factory, and then I bought my concert tickets for the show in Cincinnati. I'm in Indianapolis, but that's like a little over an hour drive, so it's no big deal. And I totally wanted to go. And so I got my tickets, and then the Rona happened. And then my concert went from May to October. Then October, well, I think like September rolled around, and that whole thing was going nuts, and the concert got canceled, and I was so pissed. So I finally got to see them. Yeah. And I went by myself. Yeah, and it was good. But the next day, okay, so my grandpa's in the hospital, then I go see this metal concert, and then I have a family reunion to go to. My dad's second to youngest brother, well, I don't know if that's how you should word that on that. I don't know. The brother that is the second to youngest of the whole six. He and his wife decided they wanted to have this family reunion, right? So they had this place in mind. They got it. It was a decent little venue. And they ended up kind of making it a double reunion. So it was all his side and all her side. And I didn't know most of the people there. I mean, it was alright. I still saw, a bunch of my dad's side and talked with them. And then a bunch of people I didn't know. However, since my mom and I knew we weren't going to be there a real long time, we drove separately from my dad. Obviously, we had to go, but, we wanted to. But we knew, with everything going on with my grandpa, we're going to have to go back to the hospital. And so we weren't there very long. And the brother from Florida came up, and he's still here too. There's like these random, just chaotic points. Like, it's a good week for him to be up here, because with all the stuff going on with my grandpa, you know, my mom and I are up there all the time. This keeps him having something else to do as well. And I don't know, it's working out just fine. He's mentioned he might loan the car that I use to my uncle. It's like, well, I normally use that when I drive the dogs anywhere, because they're not supposed to be in, you know, the carts with leather seats. Well, I mean, my dad would allow them in his truck because he puts his dogs in there all the time, but I don't think he thoroughly appreciates the fact that mine really like looking out the window, and his don't have very good balance, so they're not inclined to like put their noses out the window and all that fun stuff. So it's just like, I don't really want to put them in the truck and have them tear up the seats there, and my mom doesn't want them in her car. You know, the little bit that Ziva's been in there, she's got some nail prints. So we try not to let that happen, which we have this whole side lot next to us, so it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. But then like, there's a tan interior, and my dogs are black, so there's like all this black dog hair everywhere, and that's all we really, I mean, I use it for that and skating more than anything, so I need to clean it. Not gonna lie, not high on the priority list, because as soon as I do, we're gonna get back in there and they're gonna make it a mess anyway. So yeah. Anyway, that hasn't happened yet. He also had talked to my mom about maybe having my uncle stay out here tomorrow night, because I think of all the siblings, we are the closest to the airport, and he flies out on Thursday, so that's not ideal. That is so not ideal. Because the reason it is not ideal is because the 2 rooms that were available for him to sleep in are now my rooms, and all of my stuff is in them. Well, them in the shed, because I have a lot of stuff. You acquire a lot of stuff when you live in a house and then move out of the house to go into somebody else's house. So yeah, but it's like, on top of that, it's like, we've spent so much time at the hospital in the past few days. It's like, we haven't had any chance to clean anything. My bathroom is at the point I really want to clean it because it's bothering me at this point. And then this happens, it's like, no. Now I don't have the time or energy to think about it. I mean, today is a big energy thing, because I had Gracie today, so since my mom's staying at the hospital, I'm on Gracie duty, which means I take her to school and I pick her up. You know, because my dad would pick her up, but he's been with his family. So no big deal. It just means, like, when I went up there after we dropped her off at school today, I had my aunt that lives next to us, the middle aunt, that I spend most of my time with. I had her and my grandma in the car with me, and we went up there, and it's like, all right, well, unfortunately, we are going to have to leave at 2 o'clock because I need to make sure I am back in time to get the kid from school at 3:30, and that's like really close to rush hour, and it was picking up really strongly at that time. So I'm glad we left when we did. I got home at like 2:45 and had a little bit of time before I had to go pick her up. She likes being picked up early. If you make her wait till toward the end, she has a fit, which is fair. So yeah. Yeah. And the same thing is gonna happen tomorrow, you know. Peppy, this is my sister. That is Molting. And yeah, she's over here just shoving my arm, trying to get my attention. Of course, my mom being gone, that's her human, and she is not happy with that anyway. So, yeah. So, when I went to the bank a little bit ago, I just threw all 5 of the dogs in the car with me, and we went on a little field trip, and then came back, and that was the extent of the excitement for the week for them. Today was the first day that they got fed in their bowls again. Like, the past several days have just been so chaotic that we've just thrown cups of food on the floor and just have at it. Because, like, we had to leave, we had to do this, we had to do a whole lot of leaving. So today they got their actual food in their bowls and their little bonus things. Oh man, it's just really exhausting. So I pulled some cards this weekend, and she's gonna be like grabbing my arm here. The Healing Chaos card, I've talked about that on here before, and that came up again, and it says this card acknowledges potential chaos or the need for chaos as an activator for profound healing. If your life seems chaotic, know it has an underlying energy of healing. You're being healed on all levels. Okay, well that's good, because this has been nuts. I'm so freaking tired. My brain just is all over the place lately. And of course, since we've been at the hospital so much, that eating habits are back to garbage, and I have skated once in the past week, and that has driven me nuts too. But I did get to do that on Sunday. That day, the youngest sister suggested that I come up around 3, so that way we're spread out a little further, since she was already up there with my grandma. And my mom's been staying there, so yeah. Oh, and all this. My uncle has his dog out, so of course they were yelling. Let me just pause this and maybe we'll shut them up. Okay, they're still kind of barking, but less less than they were. So, you got this goofus. Anyway, okay, that's enough. What was I talking about? Shut up. That's not cool. That was right in my ear. I remembered what I was talking about literally until I hit record again, and then I just forgot everything, and this big bozo came over here and decided to join me again. Oh, thank you. That's so nice. Oh, yeah. So somewhere along the line, we found out it is not just one fracture. He's got the fracture in T3, but also T5 through 8. I think we found that out yesterday. So he was supposed to have an x-ray at some point on his spine, but when I left today, that hadn't happened yet, so I don't know where that stands. But that's more chaos. God, the freaking chaos of my gut making noises today. Lousy food, and some other stuff, and it's just Taz, haven't walked the dogs yet. That's on the agenda. I figured I would do a real quick video. See how that doesn't happen very much, does it? So, god damn. What? I don't even know. My dogs keep bringing me stuff. Here, let this one be in. Hi. There's so much needier than normal because we've been gone so much, and it's tiring and not fair for them. I know. They're 3 months, 3 whole months I went without missing a day of walks with them. And then that whole hospital trip the other day messed me up. So now I have one day that we have not walked, and the concert day, we only walked 0.2 of a mile, but it was still a walk, so it still counts. Yeah. God. Nothing, I don't know. Anyway, like, just freaking, yeah. I know that wasn't all I wanted to talk about. Really just wanted to get some stuff out of my system. And I guess I have done that. So tired. I am going to bed very, very soon. Felt like I hadn't done a video in like forever, and so I decided I wanted to. Oh yeah, the writing stuff, that's not been progressing at all, because I gotta be able to think a little bit, and nope, not right now. I don't know, my dad sent me and my brother and my mom a message about the brother that's up here wanting to go take everybody out for lunch today at the new Olive Garden, and he says, let me know if you want to go. It's like, I would totally go, and like, you know, family time, I would go, but can't do that because they set it for 2 o'clock, and 2 o'clock was when we were driving back from the hospital before going to get Gracie. So yeah, so that wasn't working. However, my mom showed me yesterday, I said something about that. It's like, well, yeah, if it wasn't at a stupid time. And she's like, yeah, you don't want to go. And she showed me the message that my uncle had sent to, all the brothers and sisters and the spouses, and they have a group text going on, and he had this little late night train of thought that he shared, and it apparently pissed off the brother that had through the family reunion, to the point where he called him up and cussed him out this morning, I think, or yesterday morning or something. I don't know. Anyway, I saw the message. I was like, you know, there are some things he has to talk about that I could almost get on board with. And, you know, talking about like Ascension and the Great Awakening and the 3D to 5D, blah, blah, blah. I am on board with that stuff. But then there's this element to it that he always throws in, and it's like, nope, can't do that, nope. You know, and a lot of it's like politics and more mainstream religion type things. It's like, nope, that's icky. So that's weird, because I feel like we would probably get along on some things, and now we're just at a point where it's like, he was in the conversations. He was the uncle that I kind of got after. Well, I didn't really get after him. Okay, so my dad included me in these group texts that he was sending, like, religious and political crap, and then they were all going back and, you know, patting each other on the back and going, oh, for it and everything. And I was like, dudes, take it elsewhere. Take it to your private chat. Nobody wants to be included in this bullshit. You know, because, you know, back when I was working on setting boundaries for my own life and what I'm, you know, how I'm tolerating others to treat me, kind of a thing, you know, and then they keep throwing these things out there, and it made me realize that's where a lot of the boundary issues has come in my life with religion and, you know, some of the beliefs that were kind of I was raised in and no longer agree with, because I realized how they were connected to getting me in a really toxic relationship marriage-wise and making me feel stuck and all that crap. So, oh, Gage, I can't think when you bark. Please don't. On the other hand, look how cute she is. I get it. What you doing? Yeah. Anyway, Yeah, so he was in the conversation the last time when I actually stood up for myself and my boundaries and said, look, I've asked you, so stop it. And then that was the one where my brother got after me because he didn't think it was appropriate that I got after my dad in this group, blah, blah, blah. The whole thing. So I feel like that whole healing chaos thing. I should see how much battery I have. About 35. Oh no. Yeah, don't mind my house. Distract the dogs. For a minute anyway. They're still barking at the corgi. I don't want it. So my mom was like, I feel like, okay, first off, staying up all night is not fun like it used to be. At all. And it's like my braining tendencies are not good at all since then either. Thinking, I don't know if this is even coherent. We're lucky. And frankly, if my gut makes as much noise as I feel like it is, and since that always gets amplified with me having my hands on my knees, and I do because that's I can hold my phone and my arm won't get tired this way. Yeah, so yeah. Oh, and check this little healer sit here. I love this dog. I love them all, but yeah, she's the one that's very insistent on, hey, I'm here, pay attention to me, and throw my ball. So it's getting mosquito-y, and that was gross. I just squashed it on my hand. I don't know. There's been so much chaos, and I'm so tired. And I don't even know what else I was going to say. I feel like there was more, and I just don't know. Mainly, I wanted to get this all out of my system. And like I said, I haven't been able to write much because, okay, I should have thrown the one journal in my purse when we left for the ER, because I would have done a lot of writing then since I couldn't sleep, but that didn't happen. So yeah, so since I didn't write then, and I would have then, I figured this would be a quick way to get stuff out of my system, right? So here I am. And the dogs are still barking, obviously. And I'm still tired, and I think I'm going to go to bed early tonight. I think it is. No, it's almost 8 o'clock. I'm going to go to bed at 8 o'clock, who knows. Probably watch this before I do and make sure it's okay and upload it. See if I remember how to do all that. I have another little short thing I'll do. I did write something last week. It actually, when the one thing triggered me and I had my little momentary meltdown, that I then went back and learned where that came from. I did write something up, and I'll probably share that. I already put it on my my webpage. So yeah. But that is God, that is so obnoxious. Anyway. Hey, dude. Hey. You wanna come say hi? You wanna come say hi? Oh, no. Oh, nope. He just wants to yell in my ear. How about Zibbly? You wanna say hi? Say hi. Yeah. Thank you. Anyway. We're gonna bark some more, so, yeah. My brain is mush. But whatever. As always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see ya.